And today, the president teased that tariffs on semiconductors that could be set as soon as next week. Those tariffs could be between 200% and 300%.
Trump's shock salvo on chip tariffs collapses. Canada stands at the center, and the U.S. desperately needs what they hold. You heard that right, and it all unfolds with Canada in the lead. Canada, yes Canada, right up front. While much of the world fixates on Washington's dramatic trade moves, it's Ottawa quietly holding the key that could make or break Trump's 300% chip tariff gambit. What started as a bold announcement aboard Air Force One has now turned into a scramble, and the quiet neighbor to the north may have just delivered the biggest obstacle Trump didn't see coming. On August 15, 2025, President Trump stood before cameras mid-flight and declared his most aggressive move yet. Tariffs on semiconductors would not just be steep, they could be astronomical, up to 200%, even 300%. His message was blunt. If companies wanted to avoid the punishment, they needed to bring manufacturing back to the U.S., build plants, create American jobs. For Trump, it was another way of painting himself as the champion of domestic industry. For the markets, it was an earthquake. In the hours after his announcement, shares of AMD, Nvidia, Broadcom all slipped. The Nasdaq, heavily reliant on tech and semiconductor stocks, took an immediate dip. Investors knew what was coming if tariffs of this scale actually hit. Chaos in global supply chains, price hikes for electronics, and a ripple effect across industries that depend on chips, from artificial intelligence to automobiles.
We're going to be putting a very large tariff on chips and semiconductors.
Days later, the cracks in Trump's plan were already visible. Analysts, policymakers, and businesses started calling the tariffs unworkable. And at the center of this sudden unraveling is Canada. While Washington talks about reshoring, the North American supply chain is already deeply integrated. Canada has been investing heavily in semiconductor facilities and research partnerships. Any firm that sets up shop across the border in Ontario or Quebec can route chips back into the U.S. under North American trade provisions. That means Trump's tariffs are not just easy to dodge, they are practically unenforceable if Canada isn't on board. Ottawa's quiet but pivotal role now threatens to derail what Trump thought would be his strongest negotiating card. The U.S. Department of Commerce had just invoked Section 232, the same national security clause used in the past to justify steel and aluminum tariffs, to investigate semiconductor imports. Trump framed it as a national security imperative. After all, microchips power fighter jets, satellites, advanced weaponry. But the rhetoric doesn't erase geography. Canada, sitting right next door, is tied into the same production web. Imposing sweeping tariffs on chips flowing from Asia may look tough on paper, but when those same chips are rerouted or fabricated through Canadian facilities, the tariffs collapse under their own weight. On August 15th, Trump issued the threat: 200 to 300% tariffs on semiconductors. He hinted that exemptions might apply if companies pledged major U.S. investment. The market shuddered, chip companies scrambled, analysts started crunching numbers. Then came the reality check. Canada, with its expanding semiconductor footprint, provided the perfect loophole. Multinationals realized they could dodge tariffs by building or routing production through Canadian facilities. Ottawa, meanwhile, has little incentive to tighten its rules in Trump's favor. Suddenly, what looked like a bold policy move from Washington began to look like a paper tiger. Trump's motivation was clear. The U.S. has long depended on Taiwan, South Korea, and other Asian suppliers for advanced chips. The COVID-era shortages exposed just how fragile that dependency is, with automakers shutting down production lines and tech firms delaying product launches because chips weren't available. Trump hoped to scare companies into reshoring. Build in Arizona, Texas, or Ohio, he argued, and you'll be safe. Keep relying on imports, and you'll pay the price. On the campaign trail and in his speeches, Trump framed it as a patriotic choice, American jobs versus foreign reliance. But policy has to meet reality, and reality is messy. The North American supply chain is not something Washington can dictate alone. Canada has been pouring money into semiconductor research hubs, forging alliances with both U.S. and Asian firms, and positioning itself as a reliable partner in advanced technology. To Trump's frustration, that also means Canada has become the escape hatch. If his tariffs drive companies away from Asia, Canada becomes the natural landing spot. Ottawa can offer stability, integration with U.S. markets, and a way to bypass the tariffs, and that makes Trump's threat much less intimidating. For chip makers, uncertainty stalls investment. Why commit billions to U.S. plants when Canada offers a way around the tariffs? For markets, volatility becomes the norm. Prices of GPUs, CPUs, and memory components are projected to skyrocket if tariffs actually stick. Industry analysts warned that a graphics card retailing at $2,000 today could easily cost $5,000 or $6,000 under Trump's plan. Consumers would feel it in every device: laptops, phones, cars, even household appliances. For Washington, the credibility of U.S. trade policy takes another hit. If bold announcements collapse within weeks, partners and rivals alike will question America's ability to follow through. The long-term impacts are still playing out, but one thing is already clear. The semiconductor battle has shifted the spotlight north. Canada, often overlooked in global tech narratives, is suddenly the kingmaker. Its role could determine whether North America builds a coherent chip strategy or collapses under political grandstanding. If companies choose Canada as their production base, Ottawa gains jobs, investments, and influence. If Washington can't reconcile its protectionist stance with continental realities, it risks isolation in its own neighborhood. Right now, Trump's 300% chip tariff plan is on life support. What was meant to be a show of strength has instead exposed weakness. Markets doubt it will ever be implemented in full. Allies worry about collateral damage. Industry voices warn of higher prices, slower innovation, and fractured supply chains. The administration is reportedly weighing whether to scale back the threat or shift toward more targeted measures. But the damage is done. Canada has shown that it holds the key, and without its cooperation, the plan is dead on arrival. Looking ahead, Trump could soften the tariffs, lowering them to a level that looks tough but doesn't collapse under Canada's shadow. He could carve out exemptions for Canadian-based production, essentially admitting Ottawa's leverage but trying to spin it as partnership. Or he could double down, demanding tighter rules of origin and sparking a fight with Canada itself. Each option carries risks, but none erase the fact that Washington cannot control the North American semiconductor chain alone. For ordinary people, it means the price of everything from smartphones to cars depends not only on Trump's next move, but on whether Canada decides to play ball. It means that the quiet neighbor, often portrayed as America's junior partner, has the power to decide the fate of one of Trump's boldest trade threats. And it means that for all the rhetoric about America first, the reality of North America's shared economy is staring Washington in the face. Trump wanted a hammer. Instead, he may have handed Canada a crown, a U.S. policy undermined not by Beijing, not by Brussels, but by Ottawa. The future of chip manufacturing in North America may hinge not on speeches in Washington, but on quiet decisions made in Canadian boardrooms. The collapse of Trump's tariff threat isn't just a story about economics, it's a story about power and who really holds it. So here's the question: will Washington adjust, accept Canada's role, and craft a strategy that works with its neighbor, or will it cling to tariffs that look strong on stage but collapse in practice? Either way, the world is watching, and once again, Canada may decide the outcome of America's biggest economic gamble. If you want me to keep breaking down how Canada's semiconductor industry is reshaping the game and how Trump's trade policies keep running into walls, drop a comment, hit subscribe, and let's keep peeling back the layers. So, who really holds leverage here? Hint, it's not Trump.